Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, God has an absolutely hilarious sense of humor because, boys and girls, I didn't think I'd ever find myself in a place where I would be talking about a game called Mouthwashing, a literal, essentially mouthwashing simulator game. And it's honestly kind of crazy that of all of the places in the world that the culture war has now found ourselves in, it's talking about a company called Wrong Organ Studios making a game called Mouthwashing. Well, of course, what ends up happening, boys and girls, is like so many other things out there on the internet, a lot of people end up getting interested in things, and well, female protagonists and the old Rule 34 will end up happening as it always ends up doing, boys and girls. And while boys and girls on the internet will be doing their kind of thing because that's just the way those dark little corners of the internet work. And you know what? No kink shaming, no judgment around here. Fans are going to make fan art, and that's just the way things end up going. Well, of course, this did not go over very well with some of the activists in the cult out there, and they decided to plant their flag on Wrong Organ Studios' mouthwashing game out there, and now it has turned into a disastrous dumpster fire where now Wrong Organ Studios co-founder decides to completely and totally ostracize over half of his potential audience base out there, and it's all because Asmongold and our dear sweet Grumz highlighted his game and was trying to defend all of the fans out there making art from all of the activist cult people out there. But of course, even though after Wrong Organ Studios flat out said that these kind of attacks were wrong, well, of course, going a bridge too far would of course be out there and going, yes, thank you for coming out and defending us, even though I don't agree with your politics. No, no, no. This co-founder had an absolute meltdown that, God forbid, people who don't agree with his politics might actually be out there interested in his game and actually trying to defend its fan base. I know, the horror, boys and girls, the horror. And that's how we find ourselves over here with this article from Bounding Into Comics and our dear sweet Spencer Bacouli. Wrong Organ Studios co-founder laments discovery of mouthwashing by the anti-woke crowd. Says anti-woke means anti-gay, means anti-me as a dev. Well, tell that to all of the gay people that are also actively anti-woke, including, oh, I don't know, all the people in the fellowship that decide to find themselves liking that kind of thing. Or, you know, the prime example in politics out there would be Dave Rubin, who is actively anti-woke, and guess what? He's married to a man. So apparently you're lumping him in with all of this over here as well. But it's not just our Bounding Into Comics article and all of the stuff going on with Asmongold. No, it's our dear sweet Grumz over here who absolutely out there just trying to defend the fan base of this game, has now found himself under the ire of this exact same little psychopath as well. And boys and girls, this stuff is hilarious. This stuff is fabulous. And these little psychopaths out there deserve to be shamed for their insane takes on all this kind of stuff and not being able to have any common sense in any way, shape, or form. And boys and girls, that's exactly what we're going to call out here today. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing, and I could not do this without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Does it surprise you we find ourselves in a place where we're talking about a mouth-washing game and the culture war? Does it surprise you this little activist studio guy out there has an absolute meltdown and he's completely and totally down with the cult? Or are you like, what the hell is mouthwashing and why is Asmongold in the middle of all of this? Let us know what you think about all that in the comment section down below. And also, if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. So from Bounding Into Comics and our dear sweet Spencer Bacouli, according to Wrong Organ co-founder Martin Halldin, the discovery of the studio's latest game Mouthwashing by the anti-woke crowd due to its recent fan art controversy is one of the worst developments that could have been befallen the indie title, as he believes anyone who holds such views is anti-gay and thus anti-me as a dev. Notice it's always the narcissism. It's always about their ego. It's always about them, and not what's actually going on in the broader culture war out there, or God forbid, what's actually going on with their audience and customer base. As previously reported, Mouthwashing is a first-person adventure game set against the backdrop of deep space, wherein players are put into the role of various crew members aboard the Tulper, a transport freighter which has crash-landed on a remote planet during a routine delivery run. Having survived the initial accident, the player and other members of the Tulper's 5-person team band together in the hopes of surviving. But unfortunately, the darker impulses of certain crewmates soon cause everything to spiral into a bit of social and psychological tension. Following the release of the game on September 26th, a number of its players quickly found themselves gravitating towards the Tulper's lone female member, Anya, with her Shelley Duvall-inspired appearance, genuinely caring nature, and attempts to deal with her own suffering, leading to her becoming Mouthwashing's standout character. As in with practically any media in human history, thanks to her popular appeal, Anya became the subject of numerous pieces of fan art. And guess what? Welcome to the internet. That's what happens. Rule 34 exists for a reason, boys and girls. Unfortunately, a number of these illustrations, particularly those that show Tulper's resident medic with a well-defined female features. I know, God forbid the horror. You make a woman look cursed curvy and attractive. I know, it's insane, and God knows no one's ever done that to any fictional character ever in the history of fandom. Now have they? Yeah, somebody go talk to Savvy about that one. Drew the ire of the game's more activism-oriented player base. Yeah, they woke acolytes of the cult is what they mean. Who poured out in droves to chastise, and in many cases outright harass, the artists for who, in their view, unnecessarily sexualizing a survivor of SA, as explained during a standard playthrough of Mouthwashing. Oh my God, the horror, the horror. You're sexualizing a fictional character who went through fictional trauma that didn't actually happen. I know, strange concept, the absolute horror. Shouldn't we all be offended by this? No, we shouldn't. In response to this discourse, the game's dev team would take to the official Wrong Organ Twitter account to condemn the aggressive nature in which the outraged express their opinions. Some Mouthwashing fan creators have been receiving harassment over works that they have found distasteful. If you see fan works that you do not like, block or ignore it. Any form of harassment is unacceptable. If you can't be respectful and considerate, this fandom is not the place for you. Oh, there we go. The hypocrisy, boys and girls, because of course, if you make fan art that people don't agree with, that's perfectly acceptable. But if you think differently and have a different political opinion in any way, shape, or form, oh no, that is not welcome, boys and girls, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about here in just a second. As a result of both the initial discourse and Wrong Organ's refusal to condone the following harassment, Mouthwashing eventually caught the attention of popular streamer Asmongold, who became aware of the fan art controversy during a November 27th live stream. Reacting to the YouTuber Hero High's video coverage of the situation, Asmongold came out in support of both Wrong Organ's stance and the fans' artist freedom of expression, positing his viewers through the actual problem was not the artwork, but rather the fact that a bunch of fucking moral retards going around trying to tell everybody else what to do. I don't want to have some idiot on Twitter telling me what to do. It's that simple. And that's also where our dear sweet Grumz got involved of this as well. The popular indie psychological horror game is embroiled in controversy. A summary of what happened and how Asmongold triggered one of the devs who went off on a rant about how the anti-wokes have found the game and are not welcome to play. And this is one of Grum's most recent statements here. The same people who were mad at the artwork are now mad at me for saying the game looks great, but I won't buy a game where the co-founder doesn't want me to play. And that's exactly what it is. And so this guy right here, this Jordan Minson says, probably because you're yet again grifting off another game. You clearly didn't know of it prior to the drama. So you're just using it for your own woke culture fight bullshit. You weren't going to play the game anyway. So saying you were going to buy it makes no difference to anyone. As Grumz points out, I didn't start this. The co-founder of Mouthwashing name-dropped me out of the blue and said he didn't want me to play. Then he said he didn't want Asmongold to play. Then he said he thought of the anti-woke playing made him sick. He started it at random, dragged me in, and crapped all over half of his audience. Exactly the point. Grumz is spot on about this because as the election showed us, boys and girls, over half the country disagrees with this woke cult nonsense. This drawing started a war. Later that same day, Asmongold's video would come across the desk of aforementioned Halldin, who responded to the YouTuber's coverage via his personal Twitter account with the admission, the anti-woke crowd has found the game, and I feel sick to my fucking stomach. Being on Twitter is going to be unbelievably painful from now on, that I don't know if I can be active on here. I don't have the energy for this. Oh, the horror. A brand new audience that actually has money and buys games and goes against the psychopathic cult out there, i.e. making Hogwarts Legacy the #1 game of the year, while people like you, Martin, cried and whined and wanted the game canceled and wanted very bad things to happen to J.K. Rowling. Yeah, those people out there that made that game the #1 success, those are the people you're deciding to pick a fight with. Wow, I wonder how this is going to work out for you, Martin. That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for them. Met with a level-headed response of, He seemed interested in the game and said he'd play it after hearing about the controversy. So I'd say the more people experience your art, the better, even if you don't like them. Yes, because guess what? That actually puts more money in your pocket. But it turns out Martin, oh no, he's a true believer, boys and girls. He is completely and totally possessed by the spirit of the age because he doesn't want your money. And guess what? That's the best part. We still live in a free economic system. And just like the lady who told us, if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. Guess what, Martin? We won't be buying your game anymore either. Boy, I wonder when Mouthwatering 2 is going to come out. Probably not going to happen. So what is Martin's response? Anti-woke means anti-gay, means anti-me as a deaf. I've seen that dance many times before. I don't want him playing it regardless of exposure because it's making me feel like absolute shit. Oh, poor Martin. Poor Martin, not realizing that guess what? He just judged an entire group by the limited amount of knowledge he has. Not understand the fact that our side, the fellowship, the freedom of expression, the common sense folks still actually left out there in the world represent people, like I said earlier, Dave Rubin, a gay married man, and Blair White, one of those trans people out there that thinks they're pretty and has actually done a pretty good job of it. Fooled the majority of us out there. At the end of the day, these are the people that he is saying he doesn't want playing his game. A trans person and a gay married man. Because guess what? They will gladly and proudly define themselves as anti-woke because they understand that beyond the color of their skin, beyond their immutable characteristics, and beyond where their genitalia they decide to stick it, it is not the end-all be-all that other things actually matter to them, which is why they are not cultists, unlike you, Martin, who is willing to burn down your game, burn down any good favor you might have had with people who don't agree with your politics, have now completely and totally lost. And we have seen what happens when you pick a fight with the common sense gamers out there. These people, these studios, these game development companies always lose because at the end of the day, the customer decides, and hey, after all, 2 + 2 still does actually equal 4, and common sense, surprisingly enough, still reigns with the majority of gamers out there. So go ahead, Martin, sacrifice any kind of credibility you had on the altar to your cult. It will get you nowhere, just like every other devil worshiper out there has lost their soul to this cult as well. As of writing, Halldin's Twitter account is currently set to private. Oh, color us shocked there, boys and girls. What a surprise that this little coward, just like every other time you try to push back against these people and you try to bring reasonable, sensible conversations, reasonable examples about why this stuff is bad and why we are speaking out against it. Well, no, they just can't handle that. It is no different in any way, shape, or form. If you've ever seen any one of those videos where you see like a conservative commentator trying to go up there, or even an independent, a libertarian, whatever you want to call them, an independent-minded, common sense commentator goes up and tries to talk to these people when they're at protests. You see these acolytes of the cult. Why do I call them a cult? Because that is their behavior. That's exactly what they do. If you do not believe everything exactly the way they are, they ostracize you, i.e. J.K. Rowling. If you watch the videos out there of these people protesting out there in public and you see a common sense person try to go up there and talk to one of them and engage them, they will either get shouted down by the entire crowd or someone will literally come over and grab their arm and drag them away from the conservative commentator who's just trying to have an actual conversation with them and ask them why they believe what they believe, because that's what happens at the end of the day. That's why this woke cult has lost in the economic industry, whether it be video games or whether it be Hollywood or whether it now be politics. They have lost because guess what? At the end of the day, this doesn't make sense to the majority of people. People can see through the BS, they can see through the nonsense, and woke goes broke for a reason. People don't want this garbage, and common sense still surprisingly reigns supreme with the majority of people out there. And that's why it includes gamers. Because here's the thing. At the end of the day, if this guy Martin would have just kept his mouth shut and not said anything and just stayed completely and totally out of the fight, all he would have seen his game happen is all of us out there would have been out there pushing back against the anti-woke crowd and making this game a success, just like what we did with Hogwarts Legacy. But instead, he decides to side with the exact same people that would try to ostracize, try to boycott, and try to destroy Warner Brothers' Hogwarts Legacy game that turned out to be the #1 game of the year. Well, guess what, Martin? By all means, go right ahead. Sacrifice all of your integrity, sacrifice all of your reputation, sacrifice your game, Mouthwashing, and everybody else involved over there at Wrong Organ Studios because you decided that your cult was more important than the almighty dollar and actually exposing yourself to ideas that might challenge your own personal worldviews. And that's exactly what happens every single time. As soon as they find out that there are people out there that, God forbid, like the same things they do, including their game, but don't agree with their politics, that causes an absolute meltdown. And then you have that on top of it when you have World of Warcraft, one of the big creators out there, Grumz, and then you have someone like Asmongold, who is arguably one of the largest video gaming YouTubers out there on the planet. Well, guess what happens? Maybe, after all, Martin, you're actually on the wrong side of history. You're not this hero in the story. And guess what? Yeah, you are the baddie. And well, we all know how this ends because we've seen this happen time and time again. Go woke, go broke.